the way. We've been in the pub and its dusk was about 20 to 5 and we actually drove into town even though it was only a few hundred yards because it was so wet, but we think the ticket is expired, so hopefully we won't get a fine. Oops. Who's this fine looking body of men, we ask ourselves. A man in a record shop should never be parted. Tapes a go-go. Thomas, fantastic. You want to get in there? Yeah. The blue ball. Oh yes.
I did see some.
Welcome to Hay-On-Wye Co-op. It's not exactly the mall in Dawn of the Dead, but it'll do. So, slightly worse for wear this morning. Alright really, but we went to bed very late. We've had 2 nights running of listening to music when we go back to from the pub. And last night was a bit of a European jazz night. And with the ECM label, if you know the ECM label, it's been the leading European international jazz and modern classical label for many years, so maybe we'll have a look at what I listen to later on. Just had to do a run to the supermarket, back to the chaps, because you know, definitely need another coffee before we do anything. So just rehydrating a little more before one ventures forth, as it were. A lot of jazz music last night, as I said. In fact, can I show you what we listened to? Bear with me. We listened to the Tord Gustafsson Trio opening, which is fantastic. Piano, double bass, drums, Really, really nice. 2022. This belongs to my friend Mark, so I'm going to buy this. It's really great. And we listened to this, Nick Barch's Ronin Live, which is live jazz. And this is piano, wind instruments, bass, drums and percussion. This was more challenging. This was more improvisational, a bit more towards the King Crimson end. Wasn't sure at the beginning, but did enjoy it. But this would be the one I'll be buying. And I exposed the chaps for the first time to one of my favourite jazz records, Eberhard Weber's Yellow Fields from 1975, which is fantastic. Bass, wind instruments, keyboards and drums. It's a very lush, beautiful record. And if you like jazz music, or if you like sort of post-rock really, or soundtrack stuff, I really recommend this. It's an undersung record. I put this in my top 5 jazz albums of all time. I put in some of my top instrumental albums of all time as well, and they're on the ECM label, which is fantastic. So I think now we're about to go for a stroll, so I'll see you later. As the guy's about to reenact Stalker as they enter the zone. To have this Marvel Treasury edition of the Fantastic Four. I had a Thor one as well, which was brilliant. And it was a little story arc where Thor and Hercules end up in Hollywood. And it's really, really funny because Thor is all like, you know, serious, and Hercules is like, oh, wine, women and song, fantastic. I wasn't going to buy anything today, but you know, when you see things, you have to get them. And I just bought a Tom Dish poetry collection called Burn This in the poetry bookshop, which is fantastic. And I'm not a big poetry guy, but it's a fantastic shop, really, really good. Well, I keep trying to go in Hay's newest bookshop, Hay-On-Wye, to see what they have, but they never seem to be open. And I mean, yesterday the weather was terrible, today is fine, so I don't know what the problem is, but you know, I really want to see what's in there. It's 12 minutes past 2 to be exact on the second full day, and definitely didn't get enough sleep last night, but it was great fun staying up with the guys and listening to some music. It was really good, and doing a little bit of gentle strolling around Hay today. And you know, there's definitely a mood change in me in my reading, and I'm finding I'm drawn towards modern literature again, and contemporary fiction. And I guess today I'm being caught out by things which I wasn't planning to spend anything, but I'm getting caught up by seeing things which have a certain meaning, or I like to reread, and I'll show you what I've got. So first of all, Tigers Are Better Looking by Jean Rhys. which is a collection of short stories. And Jean Rhys is very out of fashion for a long time. Her most famous book is a novel entitled Wide Sargasso Sea, which is like a pre-postmodern retelling of the Madwoman in the Attic aspect of Jane Eyre. So that's quite an interesting one. But her other stuff went out of print, and this is back in print now, but it's in a Penguin omnibus, and it's not the same omnibus, and I love that title. Tigers are better looking. And she's sort of pioneering figure, early 20th century. She would write stories about women sitting on their own in bars drinking and being lonely and stuff, and you know, women writers didn't do that then, so it's good to get that. Then a book which I don't know, by a writer I've read a few books by, and this is The Voyeur by Alberto Moravia in Abacus, really nice 80s 90s edition. He's an Italian writer, and he used to go and stay at Casa Con Me with Curzio Malaparte, and he his novel Contempt was filmed as Le Mépris by Jean-Luc Godard, and the climax of it is filmed at Casa Con Me, Malaparte's villa on Capri, which you can see in my Capri videos. And a really beautiful cover. I really like that sort of B format Abacus classic sort of modern imprint. Something else I bought, which I'd seen for a long time, also in Abacus, funny enough, William Cotswinkle, Queen of Swords, and this, of course, that sounds like a Moorcock title, Queen of the Swords, and this is from, again, let's see, 1984, Abacus 85, and The Fan Man was his most famous book, which is in the late 70s, very culty. He's kind of a sort of postmodern fabulist to a degree, and I picked this up and I loved the cover, and I read the blurb on the back and straight away I was hooked. And it says, Eric is a writer with aspirations. He tries to forget he once wrote for Shea Panties Publications, which is quite funny. He jogs, eats brown rice, he does not drink. And he has a wife, but he sort of meets this woman and goes, and I read a bit and it straight away resonated with me. Very beautiful, as I say. So as you see, I'm very much in this 80s B format thing, and I put that down to nostalgia from my own time selling books like this back in the 80s, and also from Nicholas Royle's book White Spines, which he writes about collecting picadors. And I found some Tom Dish poetry there, and this is the one I've always fancied because the title's really good, Burn This, Hutchinson, and this is an old review copy, and that was a tenner, and this is his poetry about writing and writers. And I don't do a lot of poetry, but because it's Dish, and I'm on a real Dish kick these days, you notice it's Tom Dish, not Thomas M. Dish, so that's an interesting one. So I thought that'll be the representative Dish poetry book I have in my collection. I don't think I'll go for the others, though there is one called Yes, Let's, which is, I like the title of that, it's quite good. So there we go. So I was really pleased to get that. And the chap who runs the poetry bookshop is fantastic and a really nice guy, and it's a brilliant shop. It's got, well, you see a little clip of it which I put in, it just looks fantastic. And most of these other things I got from Green Ink, which is great bookshop specialising in modern literature, which is really, really good. Chap in there's really nice as well. But I got this from the Hay-On-Wye Book Centre, which I'm normally fairly scathing about. This is Doris Lessing, The Sentimental Agents in the Volian Empire, which is the 5th of the Canopus in Argus science fiction series, and this was £6, and normally you see these and they're £30, and I'd like the lot of them. I've only read the first one, and it was very, very dense and hard going, and it's Jonathan Cape, which I love. And you notice the top of the text block is stained, is toned there, and Cape are the only publisher I can think of in the UK who would, when their books were sitting in stock for a long time, they would tone the top of the text block. Now that's a common thing on file copies, but for stock copies that was unusual, so I'm really pleased with that. So I'm just getting a bit of a chill now, and then you know, maybe do some record shopping, possibly some CDs, who knows. There's lots of CD shops in Hay now. There's definitely a different kind of vibe with me at Hay this time. As you can see, I'm very relaxed. this is like this little room which has got like a day bed in it, and there's such a children's book. So I guess when they rent this out to families, maybe kiddies can sleep in, or something. And it's quite a small room, but I would have this shelved up in an instant, full of books. So, but yeah, last time I remember shooting last year, I don't know if I'll ever shoot in Hay again, really, because I have burned it down on the SF front, and there's only so much you can show. But of course, last year when I was here a year ago, I did 3 videos. I did a walk around in the bright sunshine. There was snow on the ground. Hardly anybody's watched that. That's just music and visuals, and I really liked that video. I think it's great. But then there was a 2-day vlog, and more people watched part 2 than part 1, which is like kind of weird, really. But this is slightly different. I think I'm very much feeling that I will keep coming here, and I will come again. I don't know whether I'll stay again. It's been pretty relaxing, and I am seeing a shift, as you'll see in my book hauls, in what I'm buying, because it's reflecting what I'm reading. I'm moving away from, shall we say, genre science fiction back into literary science fiction, and one adjunct to that is that I'm starting to read contemporary and literary fiction again, and that's an important thing for me, and I'm enjoying it, because I think last year I read too much genre SF, and a lot of what I read was okay. There's an upcoming video in which I talk about Philip Jose Farmer, and I'm going to make some references to how that's affected what I'm reading now and where I'm going now, and what I'm going to do with SF, so we'll see. So I'm just chilling here a moment now, and I'm going to get back out and meet the chaps. But God, I could really handle this house. It's just 3 floors, it's really big, it's uncluttered, and this would be just right for me in the video window, really, because if you live in a small house all your life and it's just surrounded by stuff, and to be able to get it all out and still have space would be amazing, really. So it's kind of like a dream at the moment. So, and I guess, have I spent too much money? Well, I put some money aside for this trip, and I think I have probably spent too much, but you got to enjoy yourself. I'm not really planning to go away anywhere again until the autumn. Hopefully I'll be over the polymyalgia by then, and we're planning to go to Edinburgh. I'd like to go to Paris again late this year, early next. We'll see, I guess. But there's a lot of things with money, and that's same for everybody. Money's difficult, and I've got expensive dental treatment coming up again, another 1 or 2 sessions of root canal, which will cost me, if I have to have 2 sessions, that'll be £1,000 gone. If this one is just 400 or 500, and that'll be late in February, so that'll be just before the London paperback show, so we'll see. So I think get up off this daybed and go for a stroll again. So this is Bear Street, and I don't think I've ever walked up here. And behind me is a pub called the Old Black Lion, which has been closed down for some time, and it used to be like a hotel. And I remember me and the boys going in there 30 years ago and sitting Chesterfields by the fire, and I kept saying, we need an M.R. James ghost story now, and none of us knew any. We knew the M.R. James ones, but we didn't have our own ghost stories. So yeah, it was a nice one. Hope that'll reopen at some point. third of 3 nights at Hay, and it's about 6 o'clock. I don't know why I'm obsessed with telling you what the time is. I guess it maybe creates some continuity, and I'm here in my penthouse suite, and we're about to go out in about half an hour to the 3 Tons and have pizza. It's pizza tonight, a couple of drinks, and then come back quite early and have a little bit of music and try and get a bit more sleep tonight, because we're going back home tomorrow, so I won't shoot tomorrow. So this is the last segment, as it were. And yeah, I guess this sort of reminds you, see there, the angle between two walls. That reminds me of the J.G. Ballard quotation, is the angle between two walls content. You know, it's like, it's a very new wave thing, isn't it? So, but I did do one final mini haul, and really thinking back about what I've said in this video about other things, and the one thought I hadn't really got across was about, you know, reading a novel aloud to an audience is the best way to review it, because it reviews itself, which I think is an interesting thing. It's completely impractical and stupid, of course. I'm not actually going to do it, but maybe when we're listening to audiobooks, what we're doing is reviewing the book ourselves. You know, somebody's giving us the material and we're reviewing it, because it's easier than actually having to actually read. Listening is easier. And I was thinking a lot about the novel of ideas, and you're gonna hear the novel of ideas a lot from me over the next few months, and because I want to broaden things out and try and get everybody thinking about SF and how it sort of interlinks to the mainstream and the slipstream and what have you. And you know, reading the novel of ideas is more like reading non-fiction than traditional fiction in lots of ways, I would say, and SF's like that as well, isn't it? Because you know, the currency of ideas is an important thing. So that's what we'll come on to. But yeah, I did one final mini haul, and it was fairly sort of fatal, really, because I went in Cinema Bookshop. I normally sell a load of stuff, and I don't usually look at the general fiction. And as you've seen this time, and you'll see in the reviews that I'm doing at the moment and things which are upcoming, I'm moving away a bit from traditional genre SF, even though that will always be part of what we're doing here. And I decided to look at some other things, and I bought some books very cheaply, which was fantastic. Cinema's really good prices, and I'll talk you through them. And I came across several things I fancied buying, and I put some things back because it was a bit much. But this is The Portage to San Cristobal of A.H. by George Steiner, who, as you see, is not mentioned on the cover. And I read this back in the late 80s, came out in the 70s, and this is a 1981 edition. The one I had was a later one, but very similar, slightly different cover, subtler cover, but it's still red with a swastika. How do you sell a book in the 1970s? You put a swastika on the cover, is what they used to say. And this is a speculative story. It's an SF story about a guy who goes on a pilgrimage to South America, and he discovers that Hitler is still alive and living in Latin America, and this wonderful climactic sequence where really Hitler mounts his own verbal defence of what he did, and of things like the Holocaust, which of course is indefensible. And it's about how can language be used, something as beautiful as language be used for something as destructive and horrible. And there's a couple of copies of this, and that was like £3, so it's 5p more than it was when it was first published, so can't argue that. If you ever see it, pick it up. It's quite an uncommon book. And then I came across a book which I chose as a reading selection for the Bath SF discussion group back in 1991-92, and this is Donald Barthelme, The King, and a Minerva B format. And I picked this because this is like Barthelme was a short story writer, postmodern fabulist. This was about the last thing he wrote before he died. He died in 89, huge literary reputation. And basically the idea of this is that King Arthur is rediscovered during World War II, and he's doing battle with the Nazis during the darkest period of World War II. And in Rome, Ezra Pound, who was a poet, who was a fan of fascism, is broadcasting, and he was anti-Semitic. And Lord Haw is in Berlin, and he breaks the news that Guinevere is sleeping with Lancelot. So there's this strange interaction of World War II and Arthurian thing. And it reminds me in a way of, there's a film version of Richard III, Shakespeare's Richard III, with Ian McKellen as Richard III, which is set in like an alternate fascist Britain, which is brilliant. It's one of my favourite SF films, alternate history thing. And this is similar. And the guys and I read this at the time because I wanted to break the mold and I hadn't read it, and I got rid of it, I hadn't read it since, and I've always meant to read more by him, but he's very good, so I was pleased to get that, and that was only £3 as well. And then I looked at the crime section, and as I've said on the channel, I haven't really felt the sort of urge to read crime, because I've read so much in recent years, but somebody I've never read is Ed McBain, and Ed McBain, also known as Evan Hunter, he wrote one SF novel, and he wrote a load of these police procedurals, the 87th Precinct series, and they used to be everywhere when I was young, loads and loads and loads of them. And I always used to call him McBain, you know, sort of like a super hard-boiled thing. And this is about the 87th Precinct in New York. And that's Bread, and this is Axe, one of the more famous ones, and Like Love with the stocking tops there, so I couldn't really pass up on that. And these are about £3 a pop, and they're absolutely beautiful. And you'll see a shot in the video where I piled about 6 of them, and I put 3 back because I found other things. And I decided to get these because really, even though I'm sort of off crime, one of my favourite crime series is the Martin Beck series, The Story of a Crime by Hay-On-Wye, the original Nordic noir novels from the 60s and 70s. And they're police procedurals, and I love them. And if you talk to people who are real authorities on crime, they either say the best police procedurals are Ed McBain's or they're the Hay-On-Wye ones. And I feel I need to read some of these to see what I feel about them. And there's loads of them. There's dozens and dozens of them. But I know I won't read dozens and dozens of them. And you've heard this before, you're thinking. But I want to give them a try. So I bought 3. I'll give them a try. I put 3 back. But they're absolutely beautiful. But now they've got these great period covers. These are from the mid-70s. The books are often 60s books, but these are mid-70s editions in pan. Not quite the pan lozenge, but gorgeous. A format, as you see. I picked up some other things, but I put them back because I found a couple of books which I've often thought of buying, and they're books I've read, and they're books I've got in paperback, and I've read many times. And we're talking about Colin Wilson, and I came across this, The World of Violence, which is Wilson's 2nd novel, I think, and I still got my Granada paperback from the 80s, and this is a fantastic novel of ideas, and it's narrated by a young boy called Hugh, who he's a mathematical prodigy, and his uncle discovers that he's a mathematical prodigy, and he's working class, and it's got certain affinities with the famous Leopold and Loeb crime case, where 2 boys get together and they've decided they're more intelligent than everybody else and they're going to perform the perfect murder, and it's similar to that in a way, and it's a great book. And this was only £10, and it's got a couple of tape marks there, but it's in really, really good condition, and it's a novel I've read and will read again. And getting that for £10, it'll stop me paying silly money for it, because I'd always be tempted. So I was really pleased with that. So that's when I put other stuff back, and I put back a book by Emma Tennant called Hotel de Dream in a Pickard edition, and I put the other McBain's back. And then I saw this, Colin Wilson's Ritual in the Dark, which is one of my favourite novels of all time. And this is a Gollancz first, and it's a bit dirty on the text block. It's got some minor wear, but this was £15. Now this is a book which normally costs you at least 60 to 90 quid in bad nick, and a mint one would cost you a lot more, and Wilson's prices have gone up and up and up, and I've read this half a dozen times or more, and this is one of my favourite novels. It's my favourite book by Wilson. This was the book he was writing when he was sleeping on Hampstead Heath in a sleeping bag, and in the daytime he was writing this in the British Library, and he had the idea at Christmas time to write The Outsider, which was his most famous book, and then this came afterwards. And it's the study of 3 outsiders, 3 different types of outsiders. This young guy called Jared Sorm, and he's a bit of a drifter. He's got a tiny private income, which means he can like rent a bed set, and he falls in with a rich homosexual aesthete called Austin Nunn, and a painter called Oliver Glasp, who's a bit like Vincent van Gogh. And in the background there's this serial killer case, and it's always marketed as a crime novel when it's in print, and it hasn't been in print in the UK for years. It's in print from Valancourt in the USA, and it's just absolutely marvellous, and I absolutely love it, and I've read it time and time again, and I put it up there with Hampson, Hesse, Camus, Sartre, what have you. Absolutely brilliant. And it's also kind of like an English Beat Generation novel. Soho, early 60s, shabby genteel, really, really good. And that was £15, and you know, it's got price clip DJ, and it's seen a bit of action, but overall it's in really good nick. So I was delighted with that, because again, that's the one I was really in danger of possibly spending stupid money on. I didn't want to. Finally, and this is a confession, this is a book which I read, when did it come out? Let's have a look. I read this back, let's see, where's it going? Published in June 2010 by PS Publishing. I probably read it a few years after that. And this is Roadside Bodhisattva by Paul DeFilippo in PS. Limited trade edition. I think they printed about 500 of this, and there was a trade case hardcover which was signed, which I didn't get. And I bought this from PS, and I'm sure this is the copy which I actually sold on, that I read and sold on to cinema, and I always wished I'd kept it. And this is a really great little mainstream novel. Paul's a really great guy who was sort of friendly on Facebook and stuff. And he, it's just really great. It's about this young kid, and he gets fed up at home. He feels neglected. He's about 16, and he just walks off, and he walks off down the highway, does some hitchhiking, and he ends up working at this roadside diner, which is like a motel there. And he falls in with this very sort of zen, hippie old guy who sort of teaches him about life and everything, but it does have a sting in the tail, and it's a wonderful book, and it shows that Paul could easily have had a career as a mainstream novelist, and I'm really pleased to have it again. So I sold this to them, and I got that for £4. And you try and find this on the internet, forget it, you won't find it. And as for the signed trade case hardcover, you will never see one. Marvellous stuff. So I'm really pleased to get that. I'm sorry, Paul, I sold it. I should have kept it, because it's a really good book, but I used to get everything's space. I still do that, but now if it's a good book, I'll hang on to it, because I am returning to things. So that's kind of the end of the book haul really. I might have to film some inserts if things haven't come out well. You'll see those. So it's been a strange time. It's been relaxing. It's been tiring because we've been staying up and we've been going to the pub and what have you. But I have got out of it what I wanted, which is good. And it shows that I'm patching myself back into the mainstream of literature generally, and that you get older, and I've been very much in this frame of mind where I've been thinking, I want to stop collecting, and I'll reread stuff and what have you. And some of this is, as I say, is things I've read, I want to go back to again, and it's nostalgia, but it's a powerful thing, to have the weight of your memories and the context and things. And books have been my life. There's been other things in my life, obviously, but they have been dominant because of my job and because of my interests. And I do want to step away from that. When I finish work, I want to spend a period of time, and I don't go in a bookshop for 2 years, and I talk about all these things. But I can't do that yet. And I'm hoping that when I do finish, that I'll be able to move into somewhere like this, big and uncluttered and neat and clean, with enough space for me to get my stuff out, and be able to get at all my books and things, because it's been hard work. So we're off to have a pizza in a few minutes, which I'm looking forward to. And I think that's it really. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm probably going to be a two-parter, I'm sure. Will I ever film with Hay again? Never ever say never again, as they say. Maybe I will. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your patience with my ramblings. Thanks for all your generosity, the super thanks, the gifts, the views. I'm sorry there hasn't been so many videos recently, but I am trying to sort of get more rest and catch up. And throughout February, there'll probably be about 2 a week. There'll be some exciting stuff coming up. There's loads and loads of SF coming up. It's mostly just the effort of me getting out the books to film things. And next week when I go home, the video widow is away for a week, and I'm going to film some SF stuff for you then. So I hope you've enjoyed this and you enjoy what's coming up. And bye for now. Just to raise a glass to my audience.
Alright, we're busy now. Yeah, we're doing stuff. Yeah. Three of us in the 3 tons.
Three of us in the 3 tons in the 3 tons.
3 cocks.
Right.